How you doing, y'all? Welcome to Confidence. On today's episode, we're going to do things a little bit differently. I've been throwing a lot of research at y'all, and it's good. Don't get me wrong. I love it, right? You're learning a lot, but I think sometimes it could be information heavy, and I think that is what makes me different than other podcasts. And something that I want to lean into is me sharing my honest, true vulnerability, my thoughts. I've been doing a lot of learning for myself. So what I'm going to do today differently is I'm going to be totally off script, nothing written down. Actually, I have two things written down. I got two things I saw on Threads, but they're honestly just kind of funny. So we're going to react to that, but I'm going to wait to the end for that. But for the beginning part, I'm going to talk to y'all a little bit about my love life right now and just kind of the things that I've been learning. I've been reading a lot, as you guys have probably seen on my story and bullshit, but I've honestly been learning so fucking much, like so much. And it's really great because I feel like I'm like changing so fucking rapidly. It's honestly almost weird and uncomfortable. But it's fucking fantastic. I've been in such a good mood. I've been vibing, like my vibration has been the highest it's been in a very, very long time. Like if we go back to the podcast where I think it was Curtain Call, the season finale, right? Last year. Like I told y'all, I was like, I need to get my shit together. Like I really need to like get back to me, really find myself and really find my happiness again and my peace again. And I think it's really weird, but I feel like I'm here. I feel like I've figured it out in a way, not life entirely, right? Let's not get crazy because the moment you think you got shit figured out is the moment you are so fucking wrong. But I do feel like I'm at a part of my life where again, I'm in an upswing. I'm in a place where I'm so fucking grounded. I'm so fucking at peace. Like today I was writing about how I felt. Like that was my journal. My journal was all about how do you feel? And what was cool about this journal in particular is I had to write how I was feeling without addressing anybody external to me. So the entire journal is I feel like a heaviness in my shoulders or a tightness in my body. I feel a little bit of this like, I don't know, this angst that I need to do something or that I should be doing something. Also, I feel like I feel kind of safe. I feel kind of optimistic about my life. And essentially the whole journal is you have to continually use I statements and you cannot use anybody external to you. You have to really focus in on how you're feeling. We talked in the last podcast about feeling your feelings, right? Trying to break out of this avoidance. And I think that's what has happened for me is I think I'm at the point where like I'm really breaking my insecure attachment, honestly. And it's because of all the reading and the work that I've been doing lately. I'm going to share a little bit of that work with you. So I would say like the biggest like aha moment besides just like me being so much more in touch with my feelings and getting myself to be at a state where I feel happy and comfortable as much as I possibly can. The biggest work I did was understanding my triggers. Like this work that I was doing to get to this place is crazy. And so what I did to explore this was I took a look at what gives me tension in my life, what gives me tension in my relationships. And essentially you have to kind of work it backwards. And what I found is this. In my relationships, I'm very reactionary towards people that are pretty aloof, that are distant towards me or are kind of like showing that they don't necessarily fully care about me. Maybe they're being dismissive. And I realized that typically the way that I react to that behavior is with anger. And what I discovered as I gone deeper and deeper, I realized that the reaction of anger is actually a hidden feeling for me of feeling unappreciated, feeling like, I don't know, abandoned, feeling unsupported, feeling like I'm left on an island. And when you really get deep into this, what you then recognize, at least for me, is it's a past trauma that is triggering this, right? And as I got deeper and I continued to explore this, it then got into, okay, the reason that I get so triggered when somebody is dismissive towards me or aloof is really because I feel unsupported and abandoned. That is my core fear. My core fear is abandonment, which is strange. I didn't like view myself as that, but I started to recognize, oh shit. And the other thing is the way that I normally react to that is with anger. So on the surface, if you see it, right, what happens is again, somebody triggers me because they're acting aloof. Maybe the plans change or they don't show up for me. It triggers this feeling of abandonment. It triggers this feeling of me feeling unsupported. Sometimes I don't see it that way because I react so fast. And what is my typical reaction to that? My typical reaction to somebody being dismissive towards me or aloof is anger, is I detach myself from that person immediately. What happens is I'm like, okay, done, cooked. Like, I'm not fucking with this person anymore. And again, there's this anger towards it, right, that I have. I'm like, fucking done. Like, I get out of here, essentially. And again, this is why it's really cool. And when I recognize it's actually my core fear of abandonment, and then I looked at where that core fear of abandonment came from, and what it really is a actual trauma response to me feeling abandoned as a child. You know, I talked a little bit about on the last podcast, and I don't think I was specific enough around this when it comes to like my childhood. I don't really talk about it like this, but this is really what it is. It's not just that like my mom wasn't like emotionally available for me. Like there'd be times where like she tried and she could, but there was also a lot of chaos in my childhood. Like when I was thinking back, because I was doing this like feelings work, right, where I was really trying to get to the root of this feeling, right? So as I'm identifying it as a feeling of abandonment, and then we're going back even deeper, okay, where does that feeling come from? And I started to feel it in my body, right? This tenseness in my stomach, right? Like when I think about abandonment and feeling unsupported, I feel it in my stomach. And when I allowed myself to like sit there, I closed my eyes, I took a deep breath, and I just would feel in that spot. And I would think about the images and the things that would come up in my mind. And the images were like, dude, there was like a time I was like sitting there. I feel like I was like playing Guitar Hero in the living room. And I remember having my headphones on and playing like Xbox. Like my mom and my brother are just going fucking at it. They're going fucking at it. Like, you know what I'm saying? They're yelling at each other. Like something gets thrown. My brother's phone gets thrown across the room. Poof, that shit explodes. So I feel like I just remember being in such like chaotic, sometimes like hostile environments. Like, and again, this isn't to call out my family for being poor people. It's just what I experienced, right? Again, my relationships that I have with my family right now are so different. And again, you know, people grow. We're human. So that's the other thing too. You can't hold on to any resentment. At least I do not. I hold zero resentment towards any of my family or for any of the experiences we had, because again, you have no control over that. But you know, when I think back to my childhood, I was always kind of like the peacekeeper. I was always like really quiet. I was always like watching my mom and my brother fight, or my mom and my dad fight. Everybody was fucking fighting all the fucking time. It was always chaotic. I was always the quiet one that just like didn't want to get involved. Or when shit got a little too crazy, I would have to step in and be like, yo, y'all need to just calm the fuck down. Like, what are we doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, it would just be fucking crazy. And then I also think about like the relationship and the dynamics that I would have in my family as well, right? Like my brother, you know, I would say he was pretty angry and aggressive towards me a lot. You know, he wanted his way. When he wanted something, he wasn't taking no for an answer. If I told him no, that he couldn't use my shit, he would bug the fuck out. You know how many times that dude has hit me in the head with something? I texted him the other day. I was like, bro, I was thinking about my childhood a little bit. And I was like, I forget what the conversation was. I was like, oh, remember when you made fun of me for running up for because I won MVP in like baseball for like my CYO team when I was in like 6th grade. And I remember running up for the trophy, and my brother was coming back, be like, why are you running like a fairy for the trophy? And it's all in good fun. Like it really is. But there's been a lot of moments where like, I don't know, he like threw a comb at me. Like I've gotten hit the head with a baseball bat, or, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of anger. And the same thing with my mom, right? She's very like just more aggressive, just more very critical. And I have always wondered why I've gotten that, right? And also the controllingness. It's a lot from, what I experience with them. But to take this all back to what I was talking about the reactionary and the triggers, I think that's what happens a lot to me is, I'm used to being this peacekeeper. I think I grew up a little bit of a people pleaser because of that, right? My mom was always like controlling and sort of emotionally dismissive. My dad wasn't really there. Again, my brother, right, he's very aggressive. So it's almost just like you have to cater to these people in order for them to like treat you right. So ultimately, like if you look at Chris, the being that I am now, like where I've evolved, I've grown this pattern of a couple things. Number one, perfectionism, right? Everything that I do needs to be on point because that was always what it was at home, right? So it was kind of like my mom would be pushing me to get good grades, to do these things, to do the right thing, all this guilt around not showing up the right way. I always felt that I needed to be nice to everyone I met. That was my mom's big, be nice to everybody you meet. Well, if you're fucking nice to everybody you meet, you're not actually being truly authentic because maybe you don't actually agree with what they want you to do. So, again, that's where the people pleasing comes from. That's where their perfectionism comes from a lot. And then I think the core wound underneath all of that, right? Those are two things that I'm really working on as well. But the core wound under that is abandonment and not wanting to feel weak and needy. And I think a lot of that comes from wanting love and affection, wanting people to show up for me and my family a little bit more than they did, and always feeling like, number one, I couldn't really ask for that, or number two, yeah, like even if I did want that, a lot of the times they wouldn't be there. So if now we take this to fast forward, right, to modern day, what has happened? And it's crazy. I looked at my relationship history as well. I have this pattern of dating people, and number one, I'm scared out of my fucking mind when it comes to like meeting people and dating people because I have this like core abandonment wound, and I have this core fear of feeling like I'm too needy or not looking weak. Think about those two things combined, right? If I'm scared to be abandoned and I'm also scared to look weak and needy, am I shooting shots? Am I showing up with confidence in my relationships? Absolutely not. Am I showing up authentic? Absolutely not. So that's what happens is I meet somebody new and I kind of treat them in that way, right? It's like, ultimately, I almost feel like I can't be my full authentic self because I don't think it's necessarily going to be worthy. And the entire time I'm kind of trying to control them a little bit because I'm scared they're going to leave me. And I'm trying to control them without looking weak and needy. So in order to do that, what do I need to do? It's kind of like, that's why I'm a little bit more distant. That's why, like, if they rub me the wrong way, what I'll do is I'll distance myself. I'll say, fuck this, right? It becomes a power struggle. It's not me just showing up and intentionally showing up to people and saying, here I am, this is who I am, authentically me, right? Taking those emotional risks, or when somebody, something happens to them, being able to lean back in. Again, my reaction is of anger. My reaction is of distance. And it's a repeat of the ways that I felt, I think, as a kid. And that's where a lot of these wounds and reactions that you have come from. And then it's just a repeat over my life. Because I was thinking back to most of the girls that I've ever been with, this takes me back to one of the first girls that I think I ever really liked. And and the reason I was thinking about this was I was doing some like childhood work, and I was drawing out my childhood bedroom. It was an activity in the book, The Artist's Way. It was really good. It's a cool activity, but the activity is for you to like gain a little bit more creativity and understand more your like, I guess, younger self, your more innocent self. And one of the activities was to draw your childhood room. So I was drawing my childhood room. I got my cat there, got my bed. And under my bed, I had this Lego phone, right? I know it sounds strange, but it was a house phone that was made of Legos. So I used to be able to like legitimately call people, but it was like a Lego phone. And the importance of this Lego phone was like, I remember this girl in high school that I was fucking in love with. And it's funny because when I look back at my pattern of girls that I always end up falling for that I never get, it's always the same type of girl. It's like, she was like kind of like the quiet, wholesome girl that was like giving me attention, but never actually wanted to like fully date me. And it's fucking wild because I look at the rest of my relationships and I'm like, fuck, you guys all look like that or feel like that to some degree. But yo, I would spend probably 6 hours, 7 hours a night talking to this girl on the phone. And it's weird that I'm bringing this up right now and I'm thinking about the long distance and I'm like, wow, this is just what I've been doing since I've been a kid, you know? But anyways, like I used to talk to her on the phone. Like, yo, we used to talk on the phone so much that, you know, like whenever we were done, like maybe it was like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, like we would talk up until like 4 or 5 in the morning and then have to go to school 2 hours later. I'd be sleeping all day throughout school and class because I was talking to this girl all night and I fucking like cared about her so much, but she never actually followed through with me. And when I look back at it now, I now recognize is because number one, you know, I think it was just like people pleasing, right? It's like she had this emotional connection with me, but she never actually wanted to be with me. And I just don't think I addressed it enough. Like part of me, I think, was saying it, but I don't think I was being really honest about my motivation behind these things. And obviously you live and you learn, but it's interesting because again, I look at some of my relationships continuing right throughout my life. It feels like that a lot where I meet these girls that I think are really dope. And I think that they're sort of into me because they show me that energy, but they don't ever really give me their full self. And maybe it's because I'm not giving my full self to them in return. But what I'm also recognizing is I'm not being fully honest about me. I'm not being fully honest about my intentions with them. And I think that's where I get stuck sometimes with these girls that almost give me this emotional connection and don't actually want the full version of me, but I'm not presenting that full version of me because it's fear. So again, let's go back to the reactionary thing really quick though. So again, I have these fears. And again, the reason I brought up the phone thing is to show that like these fears essentially are continual throughout your life. And if you don't see the pattern of them, you aren't going to be able to change them. And what I'm saying is right now in my life, I think I finally figured out how to change all of this, right? This anxious avoidance, right? This fear of abandonment, this fear of looking weak and needy. And what I've recognized is I want this love from somebody, but I haven't yet trusted myself and loved myself and validated myself enough to be able to receive that yet. And the reason that is because I've operated from a place of fear in almost every single one of my relationships. I have been reactionary. When somebody does act aloof or they don't show up in the ways that I want them to, right? I get freaked out and I could react with anger. Right? That's my reaction pattern. But really underneath, it's my own feelings of abandonment and disappointment. And how do I combat that? The way I combat that is this. So I'll give you a recent example. So part of me understanding my triggers is also like writing an example of when this has happened recently. So this is why when like, for instance, I can give you numerous ones, right? The time that long distance didn't call me back fast enough, right? I get this deep emotional pain. And again, is it really about her? Is it really her fuck up? Like, yes, in some ways, right? Like she could have shown up and done what she said, but she's human, right? She called me back, you know, a few days later, 5 days later. But because I couldn't handle that emotionally, what happened? I was angry, right? I didn't answer her and I shoved her out. And what did I do? Again, reaction. My reaction to that was what? Anger and running away. That's my reaction. But really, what is it underneath? It's me not wanting to feel that feeling of abandonment. It's me not wanting to feel that feeling of feeling unappreciated. And what I'm realizing, and again, so another example would be like, even like recently, I got that gym girl's number. I texted her to hang out. Didn't text me back to the next day. That whole night, sleeping and waking up, I had this anxiety, I had this pit in my stomach. And again, to a person that is normal, not normal, to a person that is secure, right? Think about this. I don't know if you guys are secure listening to this or insecure, but a lot of secure partners, right? Let's say you text somebody and they're brand new and you ask them to hang out. They don't answer for that day, but they end up reaching out to you the next day. Most secure people, they might feel a little bit of like, fuck. but they probably don't feel that giant fucking pit in their stomach, this deep anxiety when something like that happens, because they have this security that they know that they're lovable and that they're loved and that they're going to be okay. But for me, it's a little different. That's where that anxious avoidance really comes in. And again, this is why I said that I really made a big transformation, is recognizing that I have those feelings because of the past trauma, but it's like, okay, what do I do with that feeling now, right? Because it's still going to happen, right? Because I have this giant fear that's built up. So what happens now, and again, the examples I'm giving, right? The person not calling me back, my triggers, right? For instance, are, let me list my triggers first. Wait, 1 second. So really quickly, let me say what my triggers are. I was giving you guys examples, right? The people not answering me, but my triggers in total are this. When somebody ghosts me or doesn't respond the way that I'd like them to, or as quickly as I like them to, I get very triggered by that. When somebody changes plans and cancels on me, that also is very triggering for me. When somebody is not physically close to me, it's also triggering to me. When the stress of the situation feels very high, when it's very emotionally peaking, I get a little triggered. Aloof behavior, any sort of aloof behavior towards me, it kind of seems like you're distant or you don't really necessarily care, I get triggered. And big one for me is if I see lying or incongruency in their word or in their stories, I get very triggered. Now, here's the thing. You guys might be thinking to yourself, well, those are all valid things to maybe not really love. And this is true, right? But the thing is, for me, it's heightened. And that's what I guess I'm trying to tell you about the secure partner versus insecure partner. If you're an insecure person, and not like in general, but just insecurely attached, some of these things might really bother you. And again, it doesn't, when you really look at them on their own, they're really not that big of a deal. If somebody cancels plans, that's normal. That's okay, right? Like it happens. Right? People have shit that they do, right? If somebody's a little aloof towards you, somebody could just be having a day where they don't feel like giving you the attention that you want to give you. Somebody not being physically close to me, that doesn't mean that they hate me, they don't love me, right? They're just not next to me. If somebody like takes a little bit long to respond or ghosts me, maybe there's a reason for that. My whole point is, most of the time, we live in reaction to these things. And that's what I'm realizing. I in my entire life, my relationship life, I've been so reactionary towards that stuff that it's very difficult to date me. You understand what I'm saying? Because that's human shit, right? I'm almost expecting this perfection from the people that I'm dating. So what is the solution to that, right? Because again, I can't avoid feeling that fear that I'm feeling, right? Because that's just part of my history. This is just who I am. My entire life, I've always struggled with abandonment. I've always struggled with these triggers because it reminds me of the ways that I was maybe treated as a kid or feeling abandoned. And again, it's repeated throughout my relationship. So how do we shift away from this? And the key or the big unlock for me was I recognized that I wasn't allowing myself to feel that disappointment and recognize it as my reaction, or recognize it as my fear. So now that I have that awareness, what happens? Today, perfect example. So I'm talking to this new girl. There's actually, two girls that I guess one girl I'm not really sure about. One girl I'm going on a date with this week. So I guess we're going to see. Honestly, pit stop really quick. I've been feeling real fucking good in the girl department. I'm not going to lie to you. I've been fucking confident, bro. I've been picking people up like left and right. And I'm not saying that in like a slutty way. But what I'm trying to tell you is like, if I see a beautiful person in the wild, it's like crazy. Like I feel unstoppable right now. Like I feel like I could walk up to any girl anywhere and talk to them. But anyways, I have these few people that I'm like, we'll see what's good. But okay. So one of the girls this week, she texted me and she's like, hey, like, yo, I'm going to meet you at the coffee shop. Let's co-work. I was like, all right, cool. And that was today. It was today. And she was like, so I was like, oh, I'll let you know when I'm there. I said, all right, I'm here. She's like, all right, I'm going to come down. Give me a second or whatever it was. I'll be down there in a little bit. 30 minutes goes by, hour goes by, hour and a half goes by. She hasn't shown up. I get like a text about like 2 hours, 2.5 hours in. Are you still there? I was like, yeah, I am. Don't hear anything from her. Half hour goes by. I'm done. So I leave and I text her and said, hey, I just left. I'll see you next time. She's like, oh, I'm sorry. I was just like in my workflow, like, whatever. Now, old Chris, there would have been two things that would have been different about this situation. Number one, what could I have done instead? Old Chris probably would have never even updated her that I was leaving, right? Because I'd have been like, fuck this. Okay, she doesn't want to, answer me or show up. Fuck this, right? And the second part is I would probably feel this like dreadful, almost like anxiety that this person just like straight up just didn't show up after saying that they were going to. Again, very normal though. It wasn't crazy, right? She was just saying like, oh, I want to come work with you. Like, you know what I'm saying? We don't need to talk the whole time. We'll just work together. In the reality of it, when you really look at it, it's really not a big deal. But again, because I have that fear, my normal trigger reaction would have made me act in anger, would have made me act in distance, right? So again, new Chris, he reacted with, okay, actually, instead of running away and being angry, why don't you say, okay, no problem. Like, I'm happy that you got your work done. Cool. Next thing you know, an hour or two later, she texts me, hey, do you want to go to pickleball? I'm like, going in like a little while. And I was like, nah, I got some shit. I'm doing the podcast and shit. But do you see how the relationship then built continuity versus like old Chris, he would have been aloof and distant back or angry in return. And then maybe just wrote off the entire relationship because of this one little moment. And how many times do we do this, right? We, especially as any sort of anxious or avoidant attachment, this is exactly what it is that fear around you not getting your needs met or not getting love or not being enough. It makes you want to react in distance, or it makes you want to react and be really clingy or overperform, right? We all have our different ways of reacting. For me, like I said, I've dialed it down to my typical reaction to these things is anger, but underneath the anger is actually just this sadness of being unappreciated or unloved. But that sadness of feeling unappreciated and unloved is really more about me than it is about the situation. And once you could create that connection in your mind, you could let go of the insecure attachment. So now for me, it's really all about recognizing when I'm getting triggered, is it really the appropriate reaction for the situation? Or is it really just my own trauma that is making me react that way? And this is what I'm trying to tell you guys, like shit is really different. Like for me, I feel so much better. I feel so much more at peace. I'm not trying to control everybody around me. Like that's what I'm saying. This girl didn't show. Okay, cool. Like I'm not attached to the outcome. And the other thing too is like, this goes back to the people pleasing and the perfectionism, which I'm also trying to get rid of at the same time. This is why it's really cool in tandem is once you understand your reactions behind things and you start to recognize that it's your own, usually it's your own core fear. And if you could feel those emotions yourself and let them pass through, usually feel pretty good. But the other end of it was what I was just talking about with the story about the girl, where it's almost just like, I feel like I need to do all of this stuff to get a girl to care about me, or I need to overperform for them. And a lot of that, again, is me not necessarily trusting myself. Part of me, when I'm like talking to these new girls, what I'm really trying to like focus in on for myself is really trying as best I can to always adjust myself back to my authentic self. As soon as I feel myself starting to hide myself for some reason, I say, nope, put it out there. If you're going to be goofy, just be goofy. Say what you need to say. Don't be scared of them abandoning you. Don't be scared of them rejecting you. Don't be scared of looking needy and weak, right? Just be you. And you don't need to overperform. And that's the thing too. We show that in different ways. Like I said, anxious to me overperform, whereas avoidance do the more, I'm going to run away and try to control the situation from a distance. And both ways, both insecure attachments, you're showing up inauthentic. You see what I'm saying? One is doing the most and way too much, right? There's a lot of anxious that feel, oh, I got to show them how fucking lovable I am and how awesome I am. Look how great I am. And again, where is that stemming from? Childhood, right? Childhood of like, I had to do all of these things to earn your love. I never have to care about my feelings. It's all about making sure that the people around me are okay. You got to get rid of that. And it sucks dick because I got both of these motherfuckers. I told you, I got every fucking worst fear ailment in the motherfucking relationship game. And I spoke a bit about this on the last podcast, but everybody has different fears and things that they grow up with, right? I was talking about in the last podcast how for me and my family, like getting a job and like money, I kind of like knew that stuff was going to happen. And I was very secure around that because I was like, oh, my mom does this and she's pushing me and I know how to work hard. So I never really thought about it. And think about the ways that I show up when it comes to money and work. I'm fucking kick ass. You know what I'm saying? Like I get my shit done. I'm good. Homie's got it. You know what I'm saying? But you have that feeling of confidence because you had that security as a kid. Now for me, the thing that I really struggle with and always have struggled with is relationships. And the reason I struggle with relationships is because that's where I had the most amount of fear, right? That's where I had the most amount of insecurity, right? Instability in my life. So that's why I'm working through these things over time and why it's hard. And like I said, some people, they grow up where they experience a secure relationship at home. They feel like they can go to their caregivers for love when they need. They could, express that and they'll get it in return. So a lot of those people, when it comes to relationships, when they're dating people and they're talking to people, they don't take things as personally. They don't have this deep fear, this pit in their stomach when somebody doesn't answer them. But you just got to figure out the things for yourself that you're really fearful of. And I think what it's really about is understanding those core fears, understanding those core limiting beliefs. That's what I teach in my, coaching as well. This is how we get down to the root of it. We got to get down to the root of like, where did this fear start? Why did it start? And let's look at the pattern over time. Because for every single person, there's something in there that is preventing you from getting the things that you really want. Like, I want a great relationship. I want a dope relationship. The only way that I can get to that place is if I show up this way. And another big thing as well. And again, the core difference, it feels so risky for me to shoot my shot. It feels so risky for me to lean back into the relationship. I gave you the example of the coffee shop today where I texted her and said, hey, I'm leaving. Like, sorry I didn't see you, but it's cool. That in itself feels weird to me because again, what is my core fear? My core fear is I don't want to look weak and needy. And I also don't want to be abandoned. So if you are letting that fear drive you, it's so much easier to run away and just act like you don't care to avoid looking weak and needy, but also to avoid the disappointment. Let's say I text her that and she just doesn't even answer me or just doesn't say anything. That could hurt even worse. But what I'm recognizing is if I'm going to gain a secure attachment, I have to be willing to take those risks. And that's what I'm saying. Somebody who's securely attached would be doing those things, right? That's the truth, right? They'd be texting that person like nothing fucking happened. Unless it was, here's the thing. If you get super disrespected by somebody, right, then it is what it is. And that's, I would say that was one other thing. That was one other thing I wrote down too, right? So some of this stuff, the triggers for me, like somebody ghosting you, for instance. The truth is like, if you're secure, if somebody does something like that to you or they don't show up for you, you let it go. You don't take it personally. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, it might affect you, right? But the reason that, here's the thing, if somebody ghosts you and it's affecting you to the point where it's like taking you out of your own well-being and it's taking you out of your own routine, I'm sorry to say, it's really not about them and it's really more about you. And it's the lack of security that you have in yourself. And again, I'm telling you this as a person that struggles with that myself, where I could take things very personally when people do things like that. But the truth is, once you become more secure, you recognize, okay, some people are not going to show up for me. That's okay. I got to learn to let those people go. And the thing is, again, it's not about them being a bad, selfish person. It's about me recognizing, okay, I can handle that. I can handle somebody, quote unquote, abandoning me. And that's how we get over the fear of abandonment, is by allowing ourselves to get abandoned. It sounds strange, but it's the truth. You got to lean into abandonment. You got to lean into these core fears that you have. For me, again, looking weak and needy. The missing piece for me in my relationships, honestly, I think is having the ability to show up authentic and share my emotions and share my feelings with people openly and honestly. And yes, is that sometimes going to result in them running away and leaving me? Yes, it is. But that's how I get over the fear of abandonment. But the other part is, if I show somebody my true self and my true feelings and I just show up as I am, and again, not in an over-giving way, not in an over-performative way, not like, I love you, baby. It's like, no, be intentional about your words. Hey, I would love to take you on a date. I think you're really cool. I would love to hang out with you. It's simple. It's intentional. It's not over. Hey, I planned this extravagant date where we're going to go on a giant goose and fuck each other. Like, no, we don't need to do all that. But to my point, giant goose, what is going on? But you get what I'm saying? It's like, I feel so much more at balance. I'm able to take these risks. I'm able to look, quote unquote, weak and needy. Because here's the thing. I don't control your perception of me. But what I do control is me showing up and sharing what I want. If I care about you and I think you're beautiful, I'm going to tell you. I'm not scared of that anymore. Or maybe I am scared of it and my stomach and stuff, I'll feel it. But now I know how to handle those feelings. One of the affirmations I write down every single day for myself is, I can handle uncomfortable feelings. I can handle abandonment. I can handle somebody not showing up for me in the ways that I need. I do not control people. And there's no reason to. The only thing that you need to do is be your authentic self, and you don't even need to think about the outcome. As soon as you start trying to get somebody to give you an outcome, you're not being authentic. I know that that's like tricky to put into practice, but I want you to think about that, right? Like, here's the thing. Like, let's say you want to make a sale, per se. The best way to really make a sale to somebody is being completely unattached to the outcome. So what that means is, I'm not trying to convince you to buy something, right? That doesn't work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my value, and I'm going to tell you that I can help you. That's all I can do. I can't force you to want the help. I can't force you to want to be here and do the work. All I can do is show up authentic. Hey, this is me. I'm Chris. This is how I help people. And I think you'd be an excellent fit for me. The choice is yours. And that's what it is in dating and in love too, is you got to be intentional and be direct and open your heart and share what you feel with people, and how they take that is up to them. And ultimately too, there is no control over anybody. And there's going to be days where people show up in a relationship and it doesn't seem like they even want to be there. They might be having a bad day, whatever it is. You got to be so grounded, again, just in yourself, to not take anything fucking personal. And again, it doesn't mean that you could just let people treat you like shit. That's also not what I'm saying. I'm saying like be in tune and be in touch with your feelings. So if somebody does disrespect you, now let's say hypothetically, the girl from the coffee shop, she invites me to do something and she just doesn't show up, right? She just doesn't show up. That's disrespectful. I'm sure I would feel not great. But what should I do? Communicate that. Hey, like, you've invited me this last time and this time, and both times you didn't show up. I'm going to be honest with you, that doesn't feel good to me. And I'm just not sure that you're valuing my time. Do we have the courage to communicate like that? Or again, what are we going to do? React, right? React. What's the reaction to that typically? Anger, right? I could double down. I'd be like, fuck you, dumb bitch. Why the fuck you invited me? We don't need that. What's the other reaction? Run away? Okay, she didn't answer me. I'm ghosting this bitch. I'm not talking to her ever again. Isn't that the normal reaction of everybody in this motherfucking world? Somebody does something to you, and again, you react. You react. You don't understand that it's really about you not being emotionally intelligent yourself. You not understanding your own emotions and being able to process your emotions and communicate those things properly. And this is what I'm trying to tell you, that I've done a lot of motherfucking work. A lot of motherfucking work. And this is the difference. This is like why I feel the most secure Like it's crazy. I feel like I'm going to get in a relationship, like a really good one very soon, because I'm like, dude, I'm good at this shit now. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm taking emotional risks. I'm putting myself out there. I'm being so honest with my feelings. I'm not letting that fear of abandonment drive me. I'm not letting that fear of like looking weak and needy drive me. If you perceive me as that, that's your perception and I can't control that. So, all right, cool. Then we're not meant to be a match. And it's like, I'm telling you, I have this like feeling of like detachment and good vibes and good energy. And I'm just telling you, the results are fucking crazy. They're crazy. And again, I feel like I finally have the tools where I can handle my own emotions now. If somebody rejects me or abandons me, I just allow myself to feel those feelings. And what I really do is try to remind myself that if I'm feeling really reactionary about it, it's probably one of these triggers. And if I'm feeling triggered, it's really more about my own internal trauma than it is about that person. And what I do is I allow myself to feel that feeling. It's like, you know what I'm saying? Again, I go back to the situation today where it's like, I still felt it in my stomach, but I allowed myself to feel it. I didn't run away from the feeling. I didn't say, oh my God, this feeling's too strong. Let me avoid it by reacting. I said, okay, let me feel this. This doesn't feel good. Okay, let's get in there. All right, a little tense in the stomach. It's okay, Chris. You're going to be all right. There's abundantly amount of great people out there. And that's it. I let the feeling go. And what I realized that for most people, their entire life is built on avoidance of uncomfortable feelings. I think a podcast I did back in the day, remember, I think I told you guys that book that I really love, 90 Seconds to a Better Life. And this last book I read put all the pieces together for me. Now I realize what she meant by that title. What she meant is this: everything that you want in your life, everything that you fear, right, is usually a fear of you feeling your own emotions, own uncomfortable emotions. So you do everything in your power to control other people or avoid people or whatever it is to avoid feeling those uncomfortable feelings. But if you could learn to handle those uncomfortable feelings yourself, which I feel like I'm learning, then you could actually just be unlimited, because you could just do whatever you want, because you know that if something uncomfortable happens, that you can actually feel it and be okay. And that's where I'm at right now. It's like, I know that if a girl rejects me, that I could just feel it in my stomach and allow that feeling to dissipate and pass, and that I can handle those uncomfortable feelings, and then I'll be okay. And then I'm just on to the next one and I don't take it personal. Or if somebody doesn't text me back that quick, I'm like, all right, feel the feeling, let it be uncomfortable. Am I disappointed? Yeah, a little bit. Do I feel unappreciated? Yeah, that's what I'm feeling. All right, don't react in anger. Just allow this feeling to pass and then make a good decision. Make a good decision on how you want to communicate, if you need to communicate something, or just let it go. Pretty fucking easy, huh? I know it seems pretty easy, but it takes a little while to get to this place. But I think that's really what I wanted to share with y'all, is that there is a way to cure your insecure attachment. And it is by understanding your own self, your own feelings, your own trauma, understanding your reactions and your triggers, getting to that place. This is what I help people with. So if you ever want to work on that, I'm sitting right here. See, here's the thing though. I'm not trying to control you. I'm completely detached to the outcome. If you don't want to do the work, that is completely up to you. You don't want to invest in yourself? Hey, listen, I'm all right. I'm good. You know what I'm saying? I'm sitting here happy as a fucking clam. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I got women, I got the gym, I got my journal, I got my house. Like we vibing every day. You know, here's the thing. I don't want you guys to think that I don't feel bad at all ever. But I think what I've built for myself is the practices, the habits, the clean mindsets that allow me to get back into the feelings that I want. So every single day, let's say like I wake up and I'm having like an egotistical morning. What I would consider an egotistical morning is I wake up, maybe I look at somebody's TikTok page, I start comparing myself, I start, not feeling that great about myself. Oh, how am I doing as compared to somebody else? Oh, I miss this girl, or, blah, blah, blah. Your mind starts to chatter, right? You're chattering. And I'm like, all right, I got to get to my journal. As soon as I get to my journal, or I get to my run, or I get to my prayer, what happens is I allow myself to feel those things, but then I release it and I say, okay, detachment. Life is about just being happy in this moment. Life is about understanding that things are not going to be perfect every single day, and you don't need to be. And eventually I'm going to get all the things that I want, the accolades, the achievements, whatever it is, but that's not the purpose of life. The purpose of your life, Chris, is to love it right now. The purpose of your life is to just enjoy it and be in the moment and flow. Just be in flow. I can't force myself to go faster than I already am. Every week I post one podcast. I'm going to post a video. Good things are going to happen, right? You just put the energy in and good things are going to happen. It's just like in dating, right? You meet somebody and you send them the text, you go on a date, and yeah, you go on another one, but you can't force it. Right? You can't be like, all right, let's hang out every single day. I love you, baby. We had one date. Here's a whole fucking paragraph of why I love you. That's ridiculous. You understand what I'm saying? There's no flow. There's no consistency. There's no poise. There's no confidence in that. And again, a lot of that reactionary type behavior, whether it's the overgiving or the overperforming or the running away, is really just your own fear that you don't recognize that you're running away from. So what you do is you attempt to control people and control the situation by doing those things. And that was the old Chris. That was the Chris in his last relationship. That was the Chris since he was 5 years old. That was the Chris on the Lego phone with the girl in high school. That was Chris with the girl, the bottle girl that he dated, that he was in love with. I mean, all the girls that I really cared about to that degree, I've treated like this. I've tried to control them and manipulate the situation because of my own fear of being abandoned, my own fear of not wanting to look weak and needy. But all it's really cost me is being in a real relationship. And it's really about building this emotional intelligence to, like I said, feel yourself out, be able to overcome your fear, and start to build the muscle, the callus, to show up less insecure. That's what it is. So that's where I'm at right now. And yeah, I'm feeling fucking amazing, to keep it real. All right, I wanted to do 2 quick reactions. So here we go. I read these 2 things on Threads, and I just thought they were ridiculous, to be honest. Some girl threaded. Is it threaded? Is it tweeted? Is it threaded? I don't know. She threaded, unpopular opinion: men who take a lot of baths are a red flag. Unpopular opinion: men who take a lot of baths are a red flag. Are you implying that the popular opinion is that men who take a lot of baths are a green flag? What? Has anybody ever had an opinion on men taking a bath? That's what I want to know. Why? And first off, I wish I had the reasoning. Why is it a red flag if a man takes a bunch of baths? Why? Because it's gay? Is that what it is? Is it gay to take baths? Is it feminine? Is it too feminine for you? Here's the thing. I don't know if I got personally offended by this because I like a bath. I don't know if I take a lot. First off, what is your definition of a lot of baths? That's what I want to understand. How many are we talking in a month? Because for me, I'm at like 0.5. You know what I'm saying? In a year, I probably take about 12 to 15 baths. If that makes me a motherfucking red flag, I don't care what I'm doing anymore. This is what I'm talking about showing up authentic and not giving a fuck what people think. If you don't want to fucking date me because I take 15 baths in a year, just whatever. You know, see, I'm not gonna shit on you. I'm not gonna have any judgment towards you because I'm gonna allow you to be human and have your own opinion. I'm just fucking confused. That's really what it is. I'm fucking confused. You know what I'm saying? Is it the feminine thing that's bothering you about it? Is it weird if I have bubbles in it? Because that's where it does get a little freaky for me. Because sometimes I think about taking a story when I'm in the bath, like smoking a blunt, like taking a bath, and I'm like, this is kind of gay, bro. Like, all right, yeah, I guess this girl, maybe she's right. But here's the thing. What I want to know is the popular opinion, though, that men that take a lot of baths a green flag? Because I agree with the popular opinion. I think if you take a lot of baths and you're a man, guess what? You're a green flag in my book. This girl's never going to date you, but don't worry. We're being authentic this year, so fuck this bitch. All right. This other girl threaded. I'm going to call it threaded. I don't know. Once you guys come up with a better word for me for it, fine. This girl said, Hot take, healthy men are dry texters. They are direct, honest, and say what they think with no frills. They don't want to text you. They want to see you, and they will make a plan. If a man wants to text back and forth all day, ... run. You know what? I'm going to agree with this as fuck. I think it's so strange when somebody just wants to fucking sit there and text you and doesn't want to see you. I think that's weird. The other thing too is I see myself as a healthy man, and I think I'm very on point with this. I feel like I'm very direct and honest over text. I don't want to text you. All the guys that I know that I don't want to say are healthy, because I do know guys that they're a little bit more texty. And they're not necessarily unhealthy. But I would say the guys that you want are the guys that are like this. Yeah, they don't want to text, that are busy, that are living their life, that are doing their thing. And yes, I do want to see you. That's the only thing I want to use texting even for in the first place. What are we texting for? If anything, I want to be on the fucking phone. Apparently, throughout my childhood, as you guys seen, I'm talking on the phone to all these girls. I'm not even seeing them ever, apparently. It's just on the fucking phone. That's my whole goddamn life. I'm done with that shit. I want to fucking see you. And yes, I don't want to sit there and text you all day, all night. I'm good. You know what I'm saying? I swear on my life, I promise you this. I do not send good morning texts. I think that shit is corny as fuck. I think if a guy is doing that, it's like, dude, to me, this goes back to the overperforming thing. What? For what? That it almost doesn't feel real, because it almost feels like an obligation. Is that really how you feel every morning? Is that how authentically you feel? You want to text a girl, "Good morning, baby." I get, if that's how you authentically feel, I don't know what's going on. But again, the whole thing, I will say this, there's some guys I know though that, and this is where I think this is very real about the healthy men being dry texters, because the guys that I know that do the most quote unquote work when it comes to girls, or like they get a lot of girls, are the guys that are really good at upkeeping with you over text. Like I know a guy personally that, like, I know he's texting a bunch of girls, and he does the thing where he like texts them like, you know, Merry Christmas and fucking, you know, everything, like every holiday and shit. Like he keeps up. But what I realized is like those guys, it really is like an upkeep. It's an upkeep of like their roster. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I think it is this dry texting thing. It's like, if a guy's not texting you, yes, he's unwilling to just bullshit his time with you. But it's funny because I feel like a lot of girls, y'all really look for that sometimes to feel more comfort, to like spending time with him. You know how many people, girls I saw online that were texting, like, you know, that I had like the week where I was like talking about my, you know, getting the gym girls number and shit. A lot of girls were texting me like, "Oh, well, if you don't text her every day, how does she know that you're interested?" And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, because I'd make a plan to fucking hang out and see you. I don't need to text you every day. Does that really show interest? Is me texting you every day? I mean, to some degree, I think once you're like in the dating phase and you guys have been dating for a while, like, I think that it's important to, like, yes, communicate daily. I agree with that. And yes, a text here and there, like, hey, you know, have a good day or whatever, like, you know, enjoy yourself, or, you know, getting on the phone. But I shouldn't need to upkeep you every day to know that you're still here. To me, that's a lack of security on your part. That you can't be secure enough to know that I'm still interested in you if I'm making plans. Here's the thing. If I'm not texting you at all and I don't make a plan with you, yes, I don't fucking care. But if I text you and I say, hey, yo, let's hang out this day, or let's do this, and then I don't text you the other days, it doesn't mean I'm not interested. It means I'm fucking living my life outside of this relationship. It's not weird. And I think, I don't know, I would say again, more the healthier, healed men, I think, believe that way. Personally, I think, again, if they're doing the whole upkeep thing, especially really early on in the game, to me, that's performative. And it's what we're talking about. It's really more to make you feel a certain way. It's attached to the outcome. They're wanting to get you to just feel comfortable instead of just honestly and authentically texting you when they feel like it, which I think is different, right? So it's like, let's say I see something that reminds me of you. Boom, I'll text you or I'll say something. Or, you know, I see on your story, you posted something that like it resonates with me. Oh, I'll slide up, I'll say something. But I don't like this idea of like performative texting, like the texting every day to upkeep the relationship, to make sure that you feel comfortable enough that I'm not going anywhere. First off, it's such a facade. It's such a facade. Like if you think that's the reason somebody likes you, you're so fucked, because it's not true. Here's the other thing too. We don't have control over whether somebody likes us or not. We don't have control of, yes, if they're going to be following through with you and being consistent. But the only thing that you could do is be honest, authentic, and real, and not performative, and not doing things to please. Because if you're doing something to please somebody or to manipulate, and again, manipulation to me is acting in a way to get a certain outcome or to get a reaction from somebody. And I think a lot of that texting behavior is kind of like that. It's kind of weirdly manipulative. And I think that's what her point was. It's like if they're texting me, it's kind of manipulative. Because it's like, do you really care about me this much, or are you just doing this to make me feel safe? Right? Are you doing this to make me feel a certain way? Right? Really, the thought process behind texting should be, I'm texting you intentionally because I want to see you, or intentionally, I thought of this thing and I want to have a conversation with you. It shouldn't feel like upkeeping a garden. You know what I'm saying? Because unless you genuinely enjoy this text conversation that you're having all day long and you're genuinely in it, I don't know. Seems a little red flaggy to me. All right. That's my podcast. If you guys ever want to work with me, you know where to find me. I like to think that I'm one of the best in the world. I really do. I truly believe that. I genuinely believe that because I put the fucking work in. You guys see me every day. Read. Is your therapist doing that? No. They're going home. They're watching reality TV just like your ass. Well, why am I doing this? See, I'm convincing, right? I'm pleasing. And doesn't that sound inauthentic? Why would I want to work with somebody that's trying to convince, right? I should just let my intelligence, I should just let my good vibes, my energy, my knowledge just shine on its own, because that's when people are going to gravitate to me the most. So again, it's always a work in progress. Try to really have good self-awareness whenever you feel like you're trying to get an outcome from somebody. I've really been trying so fucking hard to stop. It's very difficult. And again, we live in a world where we don't want anybody to be disappointed in us. No one can be disappointed in us. You can't not like me. How the fuck can you be authentic instead of boundary if that's the way it is? You can't. So be comfortable with the fact that some people are not going to like what you got to say, or maybe they're not going to be quote unquote convinced, but you don't need to manipulate the real ones. And the real ones are really what matters, because those are the people that truly follow through with you and that are truly genuine with you. And that's all it's really worth at the end of the day. Any sort of manipulation is a shortcut, and eventually it's going to be found out. All right. I'll talk to you guys soon. I love you guys. And yeah, fuck yeah. Let's keep it rolling.